I'm Ayisha Yakubu.
And I am Noble Crosby Annan. These are the headlines of the Bulletin tonight.
360 Headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal,
EcoBank.
President Mahama urges Inspector General of Police IGP to expedite 2024 electoral violence probe and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable.
In the Bulletin tonight, 15,290 new HIV infections recorded in 2024.
Also coming up, Ministry of Energy and Green Transition declares Evan Akoma discoveries located within the Cape 3 points officially commercially viable.
Much later in sports news, Ghana Black Stars and former Arsenal footballer Thomas Partey charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault.
In international news, Mali's military leader General Assimi Goïta granted 5-year presidential term by transitional parliament renewable without elections. We're live on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook, all across the world on 3news.com. Stay with us for the details.
Let's start from here. And President John Dramani Mahama has directed the Inspector General of Police to urgently conclude investigations into electoral violence and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable. While speaking at the close of the post-2024 election evaluation dialogue, he reaffirmed his commitment to peace, democracy and national unity.
Collaboration with the National Peace Council and civil society has implemented a range of interventions to deepen national consensus, strengthen conflict prevention mechanisms, and foster public trust in the institutions that underpin our democracy, especially those responsible for elections, investigations, and prosecution of electoral offenses. While Ghana once again demonstrated its democratic resilience in the 2024 elections, culminating in a largely peaceful transfer of power, we cannot ignore that the process was marred by isolated acts of violence in some constituencies. Let me use this platform to unequivocally condemn these acts of violence and call for swift accountability for the perpetrators. Expedite investigations into these acts of electoral violence and bring the perpetrators to justice. The Attorney General is also working on a report to be presented to Cabinet for adequate compensation to be paid to victims and relatives of those affected by the violence. Let me take this opportunity to commend the Electoral Commission, our security services, civil society organizations, political parties, and the electorate for their collective role in ensuring that Ghana's democratic credentials remain intact after the 2024 election.
Well, let's dive deeper into this and bring in Dr. Ishmael Norman. He's a security analyst. Doc, thank you for your time with us on the program. The president has yet again ordered for expedited investigations into election violence that claimed several lives. Now, it's been some 7 months since the elections in 2024, and it's been more than 4 years since the 2020 polls, yet not a single person has been convicted. What does that speak of the commitment of the security apparatus in the country to tackling election violence?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. But my brother, I think we have to go a little bit soft on the IGP because he's new to his position. Of course, he was there during the election. And by now, depending upon the information that was handed over to him during the transition from the previous IGP to him, to the current one, he may not have access to all the information, so they have to go and then repeat the entire investigation process. And so for me, I believe that this call by the president is perfectly correct. and we need to know what happened what caused the violence, who caused the violence, and the extent of the damage. All of these are actually available on media because of the excellent work of Ghanaian media in covering such events. However, the president made a call because the president, the government was the organizer of the event. And so the event organizer had a duty of care to the voters. And definitely the violence happened because the security apparatus were negligent, and that caused damage to people. And it is in view of this that the president is saying we need to assess the damage and pay compensation to the people, because the government of Ghana has a duty of care to the people, we the people. And he's not saying it because he wants to be Mr. Nice Guy, but it's a legal, moral duty of the president to do that, of the government to do that.
It's been 4 years since the 2020 elections, more than 4 years. Now, if we're talking about the factors that may be at play in relation to the delay, granted that investigations can take years, what possibly could be accounting for the delay in the investigation and punishment to those who are found culpable in the act of violence in the 2020 elections?
You know, one of the cultural traits of Ghanaians is that we tend to give everything to God. And so even when you are an investigator and you're trying to collect data from the public, sometimes they know the facts, but they won't give it to you the way that you expect them to give it to you. And so you need to sometimes use a lot of seductive measures to get them to actually talk with you. And because of identity politics, people also who may belong to the other side of the political divide may not want to come forward and give information. So, you know, the reason why I'm so proud of the work that the media did in documenting and archiving all these events is that at the end of the day, we can always go back to the video clips that were done. However, you also need to understand the etiology of the violence, the people who cause the violence, the motivations behind the violence, because for any criminal activity, there has to be mens rea and actus rea. So you need to do the investigation in spite of the fact that you have the video clips in order to establish real culpability and to be able to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt.
My last question to you, Doc, would be that the president, in the early days of his second term, he ordered then IGP, Dr. George Dampare, to investigate these occurrences. We now have a new IGP. You mentioned that earlier as well. Do you think we should have concluded the probe by now?
By now, if we had a good system of transfer of evidence and handling of evidence, by now we should have established all the perpetrators and the reasons behind whatever it is they did, who motivated them to do it, and so on and so forth. But because our police system does not actually have good custodian system of keeping evidence, I am sure by now some of the evidence they collected is lost.
I see.
And that's part of the problem that we have within the criminal justice system, and cannot be blamed on this IGP, even though he's been part of the system for a very long time. Every police officer is part of the problem of the lack of good custodianship of evidence that are in the hands of prosecutors, police agencies, police stations, and so on and so forth.
Dr. Norman, thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Dr. Ayisha Norman is a security analyst engaging with us there.
And our President John Dramani Mahama has lamented the growing number of Ghanaian students who are unable to pursue tertiary education due to financial constraints, describing the menace as a dream deferred. Speaking at the launch of the no-fee stress policy in Koforidua of the Eastern region, he drew attention to the human cost behind the statistics of students' inability to enroll as a result of academic-related fees.
The initiative waives academic user fees for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions across the country. It fulfills a key campaign promise from John Mahama during the 2024 elections and aligns with his broader Reset Ghana agenda aimed at alleviating financial pressure on vulnerable families and empowering the younger generation. The policy has already seen substantial uptake. Data from the Student Loan Trust Fund reveals that nearly 130,000 students had registered online by mid-June, with over 100,000 completing the application process. For the Student Loan Trust Fund, this is the beginning of improved student loans livelihood.
We are also preparing, ladies and gentlemen, to roll out the Students Loan Plus initiative at the beginning of the 2025-2026 academic year. This initiative, as we know, would provide comprehensive support for continuing students to ensure that barriers that constrain access to equal opportunities are removed.
Education Minister Haruna Idrisu says a major cabinet decision will hit Parliament in the coming days.
Next year, the GET Fund will double its allocation to the Student Loan Trust from 70 million to 150 million to support students who may want to access it further. I will next week, on your behalf, in honor of one of your campaign promises, lay the Scholarship Authority Bill before Parliament to deal with the nepotism, cronyism that was associated with the award of scholarship.
Launching the policy that has seen some 15,000 students already receiving their fees, the president justified why he mooted the idea.
School had opened, he had not gone to register because his family had not yet harvested their crops to sell and be able to raise the money for him to go. So again, we had to intervene and sort out the academic fees for the young man to go to school. So we realized that these are not isolated stories. These are real stories of people.
He said there must be no difficulty for any student entering tertiary going forward.
Behind each number I mentioned is a face and a dream deferred. Tertiary education is not just about a certificate. It is the engine that powers a modern society. It is the engine that creates teachers, doctors, engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, and public servants. It spurs innovation, it deepens civic responsibility, and fosters national identity. Students in fee-paying programs without regular track equivalents will receive a reimbursement of up to 2,500 cedis for their academic fees. This policy is complementary, it's not substitutionary. It does not replace existing allowances and loans, but it lightens the heaviest burden, that is the cost of entry, that keeps thousands of brilliant students outside the gates of institutions like this. This policy is not about welfare, it is about fairness. It is about restoring dignity to the Ghanaian student. It is about affirming that the right to education is not a privilege for only the wealthy, but it's a shared national inheritance.
Let's now talk about the impact of this policy. And the government has reimbursed the fees of some 49,000 first-year students of public universities across the country following the implementation of the no-fee stress policy. So far, 140,000 applicants have applied through the web portal, with the remaining students expected to receive payments after validation. My colleague, George Queening, he visited the University of Ghana to assess the impact of the policy on students, and he filed this report.
It was a key campaign promise by the then candidates of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, ahead of the 2024 general elections. The policy was aimed at easing the financial burden on tertiary students, their parents, and guardians while enhancing access to higher education. 20-year-old Bridget Asare of the University of Ghana is among the 49,000 first-year students whose fees have been reimbursed under the no-fee stress policy. She is studying political science, information studies, and theatre arts. Receiving over 2,000 cedis will surely go a long way to support her academic journey.
I was very, very happy because I wasn't having any money. So when I received it, I was like, wow. And what he said, he meant it, and he has truly done it, and I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy.
But you know that the money has to be returned to your parents?
My parents? It's true, they give it to me. I'll tell them, but the money, I'll take it. It's mine.
The no fee stress policy definitely comes as a relief in a quest for higher education, she tells me.
Next year, if I don't have money to pay my fees, which is maybe my parents are facing financial difficulty, I can probably use this money to pay. If it's still with me, yeah, I have to even think about it. I can use it to pay for my next year fees. Yes, and it will really help me.
Well, Bridget has received her fund, and prior to this, there were those that were a bit skeptical about the policy, so they failed to register when the portals were open. But now, after seeing the evidence, they are rushing in mad numbers to register because the portals have been activated. Personally, you didn't register?
No, I didn't.
What was the reason behind that?
I didn't think it was true. And secondly, I checked on Google and they were saying they will pay it for us second year. So I didn't think they will give it back to us.
So now that you've seen some friends have benefited, you want to go and then register now?
I want to know if we can still register now.
But I hear the portal is opened.
We were trying yesterday, but it was not working.
Other students have lauded the president for being intentional with the policy, describing it as more than just political talk.
A lot of parents want to get the exact money for their children to pay the school fees. So I think the government giving us back our school fees will help us.
It will help reduce the stress on parents as well, and those who have to prepare their wards for school. The government has really helped in taking up this lift on us.
It would go a long way to help me because I can save the money for some one or two stuff.
So far, more than 140,000 students have applied through the official web portal.
For those that have registered and are yet to receive their funds, that will be done right after validation, according to the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwachi Ofusu. George Quenin, TV3 News, University of Ghana, Accra.
And now, following widespread complaints about the poor quality and insufficient portions of meals served to pupils under the school feeding program, the Secretariat has ramped up monitoring efforts to assess the situation firsthand in selected beneficiary schools. The move comes as authorities vow to hold underperforming caterers accountable.
Led by the National Coordinator of the Ghana School Feeding Program Secretariat, Hajia Fatih, alongside regional coordinators, the team has been going on surprise visits to schools across the country. The inspections aim to assess caterers' compliance with meal standards and ensure pupils receive nutritious and sufficient food.
It used to be 1 cedi 50 pesos, and now if it is 2 cedis, we expect that they can do better. In some of the places, I think we got it right because the quality of the food actually was nice, the quantity was okay. In some places too, the food was nice, but the quantity was not up to whatever we expected to have seen. So I believe going forward, once they know we can pay them visits of this nature, they will set up and know that we are not here to joke.
At Edrase Cheduma say, pupils in most beneficiary schools have yet to receive meals since the beginning of the term due to a disagreement among caterers under the program. Headmaster of Edra Anglican Primary B confirmed that the delay is negatively impacting school enrollment.
I remember when feeding program was going on, we had a large enrollment. But this term, when we came, because no feeding program, some of the children stopped coming to school. So I can say the feeding program helps the children to come to school always.
Following a meeting between the caterers and the national coordinator, the issues have been resolved.
Once we have reached an amicable solution to whatever the misunderstanding was about, I think they are good to go. God willing, Monday, I believe any caterer who have been allocated a slot should be able to start. Because 90% of the schools across the country are actually cooking.
Regarding concerns of who gets the contracts, the national coordinator emphasized that only competent caterers will be retained to safeguard the program's integrity.
The main issue is to get people who are capable and responsible enough to be able to provide the service. It's not the matter of just giving it to anybody at all to please the person. Give it to someone who can actually provide the service so that the children will not have to go hungry. They have to be sure that they can provide nutritious meal. It should be hot. At least the quantity should be appreciable.
The Secretariat has pledged to expand monitoring efforts nationwide with stricter penalties for non-compliant caterers.
Moving away from education, the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition has announced a significant milestone in Ghana's upstream petroleum sector with the formal submission of the Declaration of Commerciality for the Akoma discoveries located within the Cape 3 Point Block 4. The Declaration of Commerciality submitted on July 3, 2025 by the joint venture partners Eni Ghana Exploration Production Limited, Vital Upstream Tunnel Limited, Woodfields Upstream Ghana Limited, and GNPC Exploration Production Company Limited, in collaboration with the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, follows the successful completion of the Akoma appraisal program. A statement signed by spokesperson and head of communication Roxanne Richmond Esquire said this declaration confirms the commercial viability of hydrocarbons discovered in the Eben 1X oil well and the Akoma 1X gas and condensate well. Let's get a little more clarity on this. Richmond Roxanne Esquire is spokesperson and head of communication at the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, and he joins us via phone. Good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us on News 360.
Good evening, Ayisha, and thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to your cherished viewers.
Now, tell us what the Declaration of Commerciality means for Ghana's energy sector.
Basically, what it means for a layman would mean that the partners, the joint venture partners, in this case, you're looking at ENI Ghana Exploration and Production, you're looking at Vital, Woodfields, S-Bloco, which is a subsidiary of GNPC, have found the fields that Eben and Akoma commercially viable. Basically, what it means is that you have enough hydrocarbons there to be able to proceed with commercial production and exploration.
So then how will the Eben Akoma discoveries impact Ghana's economy and energy security?
Basically, it highlights the immense potential of Ghana's offshore resources. If you look at this process, we've gone through the appraisal process, which means that at this point in time, the partners are convinced that what to proceed with them to be able to have some hydrocarbons. If you look at what the estimated hydrocarbons will be, you're looking at 500 to 700 MBOE. And that's what the partners have put out. But you now have to move to the next steps, which will be the field development plan. You look at the final investment decision by the partners, and then you get to the development of the wells and the commissioning. But the good news is that at least it's commercially viable. The partners have presented that to the government of Ghana, and you have the government of Ghana is pleased with what has been presented, and the Petroleum Commission and Ministry will provide all the necessary supports to ensure that our resources, offshore resources, are explored for the benefit of the people of Ghana.
Esquire, before I let you go, can you tell us how government is ensuring that local content and communities benefits in this project?
The local content law, if you look at what the law specifies, once you are proceeding, definitely you will need to involve local companies. I'm sure you would know that if you look at the joint venture partners, some of them in there are local companies. So the vision of government is to ensure that at all mature point in time, the people of Ghana benefit from it. And you have the assurances of Ghana, the government of Ghana, that definitely the local content law will be adhered to make sure that people or the persons in Ghana benefit from our oil and gas resources.
Thank you for that explanation, Esquire. Richmond Roxanne Esquire is the head of communication at the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition.
Let's now switch gears to public health, because the number of people living with HIV/AIDS in Ghana surged to 334,000, a worrying trend that has reignited concerns among health professionals and advocacy groups. First Lady Lordina Mahama, in partnership with the Ghana AIDS Commission, has launched a nationwide outreach campaign aimed at raising awareness, encouraging regular testing and reducing new infections.
According to data from the national and subnational HIV and AIDS estimates and projections, Ghana recorded 15,290 new HIV infections, with 12,614 AIDS-related deaths in 2024. Statistics reveal that women are disproportionately affected, while many children have contracted the virus through mother-to-child transmission. Speaking during the nationwide outreach, First Lady Lordina Mahama urged young people to prioritize regular testing and make informed health choices.
Many young people today are falling ill, sometimes due to a lack of access to the right information, services, or support they need. That is why today's health screening is very important. It provides everyone with the opportunity to get tested and take the necessary steps to maintain their health. The Ghana Medical Trust Fund, also known as Mahama Care, when this fund is fully operational, it will bring relief to many people suffering from non-communicable diseases.
The Director of Technical Services at the Ghana AIDS Commission, Dr. Fred Nanapoku, expressed concern over the sharp decline in condom use. He warned that this trend continues to fuel the spread of the virus, especially among the youth.
Condom is a very important commodity, but it's unfortunate that the demographic health survey shows that whilst risky behaviors are increasing among the population, especially among the youth, condom use has come down so much. So it means that new infections are still going to be high. Education on condoms, preventive measures, and remaining healthy is very critical for the Ghanaian population.
Deputy Chief of Staff Nana Oyebampo Ado emphasized the urgent need for stronger national commitment to prevention and treatment programs.
We are grateful to Her Excellency, the First Lady, for this noble initiative. Many of us women, many of us professionals and caregivers, for us in the markets, for our kaya, this is a gift. It removes the barriers of access to medical screening, the cost, and the time.
The 95-95-95 target set by the UNAIDS aims to ensure that 95% of people living with HIV know their status. 95% of those diagnosed are on antiretroviral therapy, and 95% of those on ART have viral suppression by 2025. According to the 2024 national HIV projections, in Ghana currently only 68% know their HIV status. 69% of persons diagnosed are on ART, and 90% of persons on ART haven't achieved viral suppression.
Well, HIV may not be making headlines every day, but it is still spreading and is still killing and still affecting thousands across Ghana. Here's a quick look at where we stand in 2024 and why this fight is far from over. Let's start with the overall national snapshot. Now, we're talking about 2024. I should tell you that this was put together by the 3 News Research Group. In 2024, Ghana recorded some 15,290 new HIV infections. That's the size of a small village, if you like, being infected in just 1 year. Let's break that down. And we're talking about roughly 42 people getting infected every single day. 1, 2, 3, up until 42. On the other end, 12,614 people, they died from AIDS-related conditions. That's a tragic reminder that even when HIV is left untreated, it is still very deadly. Now, these numbers, they tell us one thing, that while we've made strides in awareness and treatment, new infections are still too high and lives are still being lost to this. When we zoom in, the gender story is alarming. Now, nearly 70% of all the new infections were in females. That's more than double the number of males. That's 10,303 women versus 4,987 men. What this tells us is simple. women, especially young women, they remain more vulnerable biologically, socially, and economically. Now, why this gap? A combination of biological vulnerability, gender-based violence, economic dependency, and lack of access to sexual health education and other services. Young women especially, they are at a higher risk. And this shows that HIV is not just a health issue, it is also a gender and inequality issue. Let's move on to what other things we're looking at here. Let's look at those living with HIV. That's over 334,000 people across the country. Of this, 2/3 are females, and that is more than 229,000 women. Men make up over 105,000. And here's the heartbreaking part. 18,229 of them, they are children. Innocent lives affected before they even had a chance. This tells us two key things. Prevention of mother-to-child transmission needs more attention. Now, there's still a lot of work to do in testing, early diagnosis and treatment, access, of course, for both adults and children. Let's take you to the regions. Regional hotspots where HIV hits hardest. I should tell you that HIV doesn't affect all regions equally. Here are the top 5 regions with the highest adult prevalence rates, ages between 15 to 49. At number 1, we're looking at the Bono region, average prevalence of this. Now, 5.36 to 1.29%. But go deeper beyond that, and you see that Doma East is leading with 5.36%. That's the highest district prevalence nationwide. Number 2 is the Eastern region with 2.08%. But Yellow Krobo leads with 4.5%. Coming in third is the Hafo region, but that Asutifi South leads with a staggering 2.81%. Number 4, Greater Accra region. Now, not just Urban Drive, though, they have the highest number of infected people at 77,721. The prevalence percentage is 1.80%. That is why it is 4th. And rounding out the top 5 is the Bono East region with a prevalence rate of 1.65%, with Techiman Municipal leading with some 33%. So what's the big takeaway tonight? Behind every percentage, behind every number is a person. They're not just statistics for public health professionals. They are wake-up calls for leaders, for communities, for every one of us. Testing, treatment, education, and protection. Now you know. Let us know what you think also of this on our social media platforms. You could also send us a message on any of our social media platforms at TV3 Ghana. Let's do some other stories tonight.
Interesting revelation there, Crosby. We all need to be careful out there and protect ourselves. Remember, if it is not on, it is not in. This is News 360. We'll be right back right after the break. Thank you for staying with us. Let's bring you some more stories now. Ghana is expected to host over 70 naval chiefs across the world at its International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference to address issues of maritime security. The conference comes at a time when global attention is increasingly turning to the security of Africa's maritime domain, particularly as piracy, illegal fishing, and trafficking continue to pose serious threats to the region's blue economy.
The high-level gathering is expected to attract participants from African naval forces, international defense agencies, national security institutions, ministries, and global defense technology providers. Speaking to the media, Chief Staff Officer at the Naval Headquarters, Commodore Ben Baba Abdul, highlighted the critical timing of the conference.
Over the past 5 years, the Ghana Navy, in collaboration with international partners, have continued to contribute to the global maritime industry by offering a boundless opportunity for cooperation, advancement, and innovation in one of the most strategic domains in the world, which is the ocean.
He added that the maritime stability, particularly in regions like the Gulf of Guinea, remains vital to regional peace and economic development.
The maritime domain is strategically important because it forms a vital part of the global economy. The maritime environment enables seamless operation for supply chain management. This domain, therefore, ties continents together, facilitating trade and providing a cheaper medium for the movement of strategic resources and goods across oceans and the globe.
International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference IMDEC 2025 is expected to serve as a key platform for dialogue, cooperation, and strategic. The Ghana Navy, through this initiative, reaffirms its commitment to regional cooperation and maritime excellence. Joseph Armstrong, Good TV3, Accra.
Now, the Managing Director of Agricultural Development Bank, Edward Atosapon, has reaffirmed the bank's commitment to supporting micro, small and medium-scale enterprises to drive sustainable economic growth. During a health walk by ADB staff in Accra, the MD stated that the bank is on a solid financial footing with sufficient liquidity to support and transform businesses.
Staff from ADB's headquarters and 26 other branches in Accra converged at the Aviation Social Center for a health walk, an initiative aimed at promoting fitness and wellness among employees. The walk took participants through Switchback Road, Liberation Road, and the airport stretch, and concluded with a high-energy aerobic session back at the Aviation Social Center. Managing Director Edward Atosapon addressed the staff, urging them to prioritize their health and commending them for their dedication. Attributes, he said, have helped the bank exceed its set target this year.
So the intent is to come together, learn a few new things, talk about healthy issues, because if we are healthy, then we are in a position to service our customers better. We intend to be the most profitable bank in Ghana, and we are working at it. And the performance in the first half of the year has exceeded expectation, and we hope to work towards that part of delivering excellence for our customers and for our stakeholders.
He also revealed plans to roll out customer-focused financing packages to strengthen micro, small and medium-scale businesses across the country.
We are one of the most liquid banks in Ghana, and so we are introducing a number of products. We've just introduced a product that's targeted at women. We've just started an Asian Dex. We've just started a Youth Dex. We've just started a business advisory unit within the bank. All is intended to work with the customers. We don't want to leave the customers alone, so we don't want to give customers loans and leave them alone.
ADB currently has over 1,000 staff and operates 86 branches nationwide.
This is News 360. We are bringing you some sports news next. Please stay with us.
again.
Hello, thank you for calling MTN.
This is Jerry, Jolly J for short.
How may I help?
I'm not happy with you guys at all. You've been giving Bongo gifts all the time.
Who is Bongo?
Oh, Bongo, my friend. He purchased in my room.
Oh.
You've been giving free gifts, but I don't.
That's MTN rewards, sir. Talk, text, browse, and more, and you get to redeem free call time or data by simply dialing *550#. And on Fridays, you can even get extra special rewards like food vouchers, shopping discounts, and much more.
Didn't tell me anything. Would you like to know how I got the name Jolly J?
That won't be necessary, Mr. Jolly. Calling customer care service doesn't give you points.
I'm gonna call my mom. I'll call my grandma. And I'll call my ex. That girl can talk, Papa. Hello, Mama. So what's the topic for today?
MTN. Why? The sun come out to play. It's bright like you. Why? Do I want to play all day? You are growing. Why? Do I like to hold you closer very near? Why? Do we always choose self-care? Because you get to sleep soundly.
Soft Care Baby Diapers uses liquid lock technology that absorbs water and holds it at the bottom, offering your baby long-lasting dryness.
Do we always choose self-care? Soft Care. Very soft.
Nana, I couldn't sleep the whole of the night.
This is my promise.
Wow.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on News 360. My name is Bill Ishen. Now, former Arsenal footballer Thomas Partey has been charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault. The offences are reported to have taken place between 2021 and 2022, the Metropolitan Police said. Now, the charges involve 3 women with 2 counts of rape relating to 1 woman, 3 counts of rape in connection to a second woman, and 1 count of sexual assault linked to a third woman. The Ghanaian international denies the charges and, quote, welcomes the opportunity to finally clear his name, end quote, his lawyer said. The 32-year-old's contract with Arsenal ended on Monday after playing with the team since 2020. Now, joining us on phone is Kofi Ampa, who is a legal associate speaking on the matter. Now, Kofi, first off, what are the potential legal consequences if Thomas Partey is found guilty of these charges, considering the number of counts and the involvement of multiple alleged victims?
Well, hi, Bill. If Thomas Partey is found guilty of the charges, the legal consequences could be severe, because we are talking about rape and sexual assault here with multiple victims. So under the Sexual Offences Act in UK, the punishment for rape can be as severe as life imprisonment. And for sexual assault, we are talking of imprisonment for a term of not exceeding 10 years. So to answer the question directly, the consequences could certainly be dire. But however, it's crucial to remember that while the number of accusations, as you've said, may seem overwhelming, each charge will have to be treated independently based on its merits. So just as we have in Ghana, there is a presumption of innocence, which is a very fundamental principle in the UK. So that means that Thomas Partey is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So, and more importantly, the standard of proof in criminal cases is high, i.e. beyond reasonable doubt. So the number of victims or counts will not change this. Each count must be supported by relevant and material evidence to sustain these allegations. I mean, we've seen this with Benjamin Mendy, who had a lot of victims coming out against him, but at the end of a lengthy trial, he was acquitted. So, to answer again, the consequences could be very severe for Partey. That is if he is found guilty.
Also, Kofi, how might the timeline and nature of the charges influence the strength of the prosecution's case or the defense strategy?
Well, from what we've seen from the Crown prosecution, I think it spans from 2021 to 2022. However, it doesn't necessarily affect the strength of the case. You know, crime doesn't have an expiry date. So even with the passage of time, what's important is the relevance and the weight of the evidence that will be produced by the Crown and prosecution. So what truly matters here is the quality and the materiality of the evidence that will be provided. The prosecution has to ensure that the evidence that they provide is compelling enough to convince the trial of facts, whether it's a judge or a jury, that there is no reasonable doubt that Thomas Partey, committed these crimes. The burden of proof highly rests on the Crown prosecution to establish the various elements of the crimes that they are alleging that Thomas Partey has committed, which is rape and sexual assaults. And Thomas Partey will also have his day in court to test the quality of the evidence that the Crown prosecution will also have to provide. So ultimately, while the timeline may not carry so much weight, the most important thing is the quality of the evidence that will determine the outcome of the case. It's not really about when the events occurred, but about whether there is evidence presented which is strong and consistent enough to leave the court without a shadow of doubt that Thomas Partey has done ABCD as alleged by the Crown prosecution. So, as I've explained earlier, the standards are really high in criminal prosecutions. If you are going to put somebody in jail for X number of years or even for life, then it has to be on credible and solid evidence.
Thank you, Kofi, for joining us here on News360. Let's also take a look and listen at Sami Battles, who also reacted to the case. He's a sports journalist and also a lawyer.
My first reaction will be, let's not immediately presume guilt. This is because the CPS have just announced the criminal charges against him and have announced his first date in court. It does not conclude that he is guilty by any stretch of imagination. As the CPS's own guidance states, it is not their function to decide whether a person is guilty of a criminal offense or not. Theirs is to make a fair, independent, and objective assessment about whether it is appropriate to present charges for a criminal court to consider, which is what they have done. It's also too early to analyze the merits of the charges. We don't know the evidence. We don't have full details of what the prosecution's case is. And this news just broke less than 24 hours ago as I speak today being Friday, the 4th of July, 2025.
That's it for the sports segment here on News360. My name is Billy Shen. Entertainment is up next.
Heaven Black Insecticide Spray and Coil.
Powered by 3 Entertainment.
Well, good evening and welcome to the entertainment news segment here on News360. My name is Noella Donko. Now, Ghana's tourism sector reached a significant milestone in 2024, recording over 1.28 million international arrivals, a 12% increase compared to 2023. This growth reflects the country's continued post-pandemic recovery and rising global appeal as a destination rich in culture, heritage, and adventure. The surge in arrivals helped generate an unprecedented $4.8 billion in revenue. Now, the report highlights Ghana's growing recognition as a premier travel destination. The United States remained Ghana's largest source of international tourists, while arrivals from Nigeria grew by an impressive 25%, making it the second largest market. The United Kingdom followed closely, rounding out the top 3. On the local front, domestic tourism posted robust growth with nearly 1.7 million visits to major attractions across the country, a 19% increase from the previous year. And now to some more stories. During his official visit to Ghana, the Indian Prime Minister paid tribute to Ghana's founding president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, at the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra. He was welcomed by Tourism Minister Abla Jifa-Gomashi and accompanied by Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Ghana's first female vice president. Moody laid wreaths at the tombs of Dr. Nkrumah and his wife Fatia, honoring their role in Ghana's independence and Africa's liberation. The visit highlighted the strong historical ties and solidarity between Ghana and India. We now bring you some entertainment tidbits around the world.
Dear mama.
In a new prison interview, former Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight claims that Afeni Shakur, Tupac Shakur's mother, gave her son pills the night he died in 1996 to honor his alleged wish to die. Speaking from the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, Knight recalled being with Tupac when they were both shot in Las Vegas. While hospitalized, Knight said Tupac made requests like a blunt and Hennessy and allegedly asked to be killed or to record a final will and song. Knight claims Tupac began slipping in and out of consciousness and asked his mother to help him die, prompting her to allegedly give him pills in what Knight described as a devastating and merciful act. Afeni Shakur passed away in 2016. The Tupac Amaru Shakur Foundation has not commented on the claim.
You was there for me. You never left me alone because you cared for me.
And that's it for the entertainment news segment here on News360. My name is Noella Donko.
Let's now bring you international news.
Mali's military leader, General Assimi Goïta, has been granted a 5-year presidential term by the transitional parliament, which is renewable without elections. The junta leader, who has seized power twice, had promised the return of democracy last year, but it never materialized. The bill granting his new mandate said it could be renewed as many times as necessary and until Mali was pacified. It clears General Goïta to lead the West African country until at least 2030, with many fearing the move could lead to the repression of the opposition or dissenting opinions. The 41-year-old military leader was named transitional president after his last coup in 2021.
And that's all for the holiday edition of News360. You can find more news on 3news.com. I am Ayisha Yakubu.
And I am Crosby Annan. Thank you so much for watching the Bulletin. Good night.